it's Megan from Clutter Crafter, and today's video is going to be an art journal process. And I'm just going through a little container I have of different tubes of acrylic paints, and there's even some watercolors in there. And I end up not using these paints because they're a little on the older side and they're starting to dry up, and I didn't like how they weren't really spreading out that well. This is an old layout or background that I tried doing, and the colors just mudded together, so I never did anything with it. But I decided to go ahead and cover it up with gesso and try to do something over the top of it. At first I was using this gift card to spread the gesso, but because I have tissue paper glued down on the page, it wasn't really getting in, wasn't really spreading out that great, so I ended up using a sponge applicator, which the handle of the sponge applicator came off, so I just put that to the side and just used the sponge itself, and it covered the page a lot better than this, or than the gift card was doing. And thanks to the power of editing, my page is now dry, so I can work on it. This blue acrylic paint, it looks darker in the tube, but it's actually really light. It's kind of like a, kind of want to say like a cyan blue. I'm not really sure. It's a lighter blue, but I got this paint at Dollarama, and it actually works really nice. I like the color payoff of it. I like how it's so easily spreadable and blends really nicely with other colors. And this is one of the tubes of paint that I was going to use, but it wasn't really spreading. I didn't like the color of it. It was old and dingy, so it was kind of drying up, so I just wasn't very much left in the tube, so I just tossed it. And I went in with this light blue that I also got at Dollarama. It's a lot more thin than the first blue that I used, but it still worked. And I'm just using a regular cosmetic sponge to dab that all over the page. And you'll notice that the second blue kind of drowns out the darker blue that I use, but I do go back in later. Excuse me, my voice is starting to go. I've been doing quite a few voiceovers tonight, but I do go back in with the darker blue and with a little bit of green, and you'll see me doing that there now. Put it in a palette, and I'm just putting blue on one end of the sponge and green on the other end, and I'm just dabbing those two together so they're mixing. Sorry, my throat's getting really dry now from doing so many voiceovers. So I'm just sponging and dabbing those on. And in the video, the color isn't really showing up all that great, but in person and hopefully in the pictures that will be at the end of the video, the color shows up better, so you'll be able to see the actual true colors of it. But it kind of looks faded together right now, but it's actually not. I'm still fooling around with my camera settings, figuring stuff out, but for the most part I have everything figured out. This stamp set I got for Christmas from a friend of mine, and it's just Inkadinka Clings, and I was gonna use my Stampin' Up! Basic black ink pad, but I decided to go with my Memento Tuxedo box. I figured it would hold up better to the acrylic paint because I'm going to stencil over the top of it. So I'm just stamping that down every which way, sideways, diagonal, upside down, and I kind of focus it more on the edges of the layout because I'm going to adhere down some book pages later in the video. And now I'm going in with some black acrylic paint, and it looks like I kind of just squirted on the bottom of my layout, but it's a piece of acetate that I have, and I use it when I want to stamp circles. And this is just a cover to a it looks like a salt and pepper shaker container, but it holds my mini clothespins, and that's what I use to stamp my circles. And now these are some DIY stencils that I made. I'm not sure if the video is already up because I pre-record my videos and then later decide when they're going to go up, so I'm not sure which of these videos is up first, but I will link the video to the stencils down below, and if the art journal is up before, I'll go back, and once I upload the stencil video, I will include it in the description of this video, so look out for that. One of the stencils that I'm using is this, I call it a broken chevron, but it's kind of like arrows, but I like it more as a broken chevron because it has the line going down, just different lines going down the chevron to make it, well, broken up. And I don't put paint on the cosmetic sponge every time I go to stencil because I like that some of the stenciling is faded and some is more concentrated than others. And this is another stencil that I created. It's just some hexagons. And again, I'm doing the same thing where I don't always add more paint to the sponge because I want some of it to be more faded, and I try to keep it closer to the edges of the pages, but I also have some in the middle, so it'll be peeking it behind the book text that I add later. I'm just cleaning off the stencils on a blank page, and that's a good way to clean off your stencils is in an art journal if you have color on it, because then it's one less step to making a background for another layout. This is a plastic container I have full of magazine cutouts, and I was originally going to use the black and white image of the girl, but then I found these different images of lips that I decided to use. One of the images I don't use because it's the same image of a lip as the bigger one, so I just put that back in with my magazine cutouts and just stick with the 5 images, and I'm just tearing out some book pages. This is from a book that I won years ago at this random event that was taking place in my town, and it's a book that I don't read. I don't even remember putting my name in for the books, but I won it and I decided to use it as my crafting book, so I didn't mind tearing out the pages. And I'm just adhering down my magazine cutouts to the book text to mat it with the book pages, and they all fit on the same page, so that was good. And then I don't not outline, but ink the edges of the book text, because I actually forgot to do that, but I do go in later and outline the images towards the end of the layout. And I cut fairly close to the magazine cutout, but I still have some of the book page and some of the text peeking out because I wanted to tie in the book pages that I glue down later on, which are these bits of book pages now. And I zoom in so you can see what I'm doing to it, but I'm adding some of the white, blue, and green paint, and I'm just sponging that on. And I wanted to focus more on the green color with a bit of blue going through it, because there's a lot of blue on the background itself, and I wanted to bring out the green in the background. And then I thought that it was too bright, so I go over it with the white acrylic paint to mute it a little bit, and I end up only using 2 of the book pages, so I just add the third one in with my magazine cutouts, and I'll use that in a later layout. I decide to tear the edges And I didn't cover the book pages completely with paint, and you're still able to see the text through the paint, and I like that. And I just used some regular white craft glue to adhere that down. You can use Mod Podge or whatever glue you use to decoupage or glue stuff down, and I am creasing it so it's easier for it to go into the center of the layout, and I'm just using a scrap piece of paper for the glue so it doesn't get everywhere. And of course I picked the bottle of glue that was not open yet instead of the one that was already half used, and I didn't feel like grabbing the other bottle of glue because it's all the way over on my shelf and it's up on top shelf, so I just decided to open this glue as well. And I'm just making sure the edges are glued down, and then I go over the tops of the edges with the glue to make sure it sticks down. And I don't mind the feeling of the dried glue over top of my layout. I'm a texture person, so I like the added texture, and I'm just using the gift card to crease the textbook so it's easier to to close the journal without it snagging or tearing the book pages. And the last few things that I do is adhere down the cutouts, and I use my tacky glue for that because it's a stronger hold. I could have used the tacky glue on the book pages, but I wanted to use like a thinner glue on it just in case it warped the book pages a little bit. And I was fooling around with the placement of the images on the left side. I couldn't figure out a set placement, so I ended up just gluing them wherever I pleased and just hope for the best. And I like how it turned out. I knew I wanted the bigger image more towards the center. And the last thing I do, or there's two things I actually do, is I write out my quote, and then after that I do the outline. And here I mess up the spelling, and I didn't realize at first, and then when I was flicking the pen or the marker, that's when I questioned my spelling capabilities. And I decided to go over it with some gesso, but I didn't like how it was spreading the black of the marker, so then I took a baby wipe and just wiped it away and dabbed some of the blue and green paint over it, and it actually came up fairly easy. Now, I'm not the best at writing, and these calligraphy markers they have a chisel tip, so I wasn't used to handwriting with it. And also the journal has tissue paper glued down, so it has a lot of like bumps, you can say. So there's a lot of texture to the pages, so it's harder to write on some areas of the pages. But this is everything I do. I hope you like this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye, and happy crafting.